You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our spoiler-free analysis of Season 2, Episode 1, which is entitled June. This episode is intended for new watchers, so let's do our round of introductions.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Marigold.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. So this episode opens with June in the van. The last thing we saw was the end of Season 1 when Nick whispered, "Go with them, trust me," and she gets into the black eye van. And it opens with her in the van, and there's 2 bullets rolling around the floor just for extra terror. And they get there, and there's tons of dogs barking, which is, you know, the Gilead scary thing. They rip the doors open, and June sees all of her friends also being shoved out of their vans into the middle. The guards are like really angry and violent, and it's just meant to be massively chaotic and terrifying.
So can I say something I noticed when the handmaids were walking in? Some of them were still wearing their cloaks, but some of them were dressed like June. So how many of them do you think they just ripped off the streets and threw into the back of a van? And how horrifying must that have been for those women? I noticed that on this rewatch.
They love doing that. They've shown us doing that a few times. They just like to maximize terror. So yeah. And then they put the muzzles on them, which, by the way, I don't understand how that stops you from speaking. It looks like it's just cloth in front of your mouth. Like you could still speak.
It looked like it was leather to me.
Right. Does that stop you from speaking?
I don't. Maybe depending on like how tight it was on their mouths. But
yeah, maybe it's really tight.
Loose.
Yeah,
right.
It looked pretty loose though.
This has always been a question that I've had.
I feel like
see these.
With Gilead, it's just more symbolic than anything.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Yeah.
Because you could hear women crying too.
Right.
With them on. So.
Right. And the vans all reversed. Like it's a very cool aerial shot that the vans have all reversed into this semicircle. It almost looks like a lock, the shape that they were in. I don't know what that means, but and the girls are all in the middle. All their aerial shots, like the cinematography in the show is amazing. And Alma finds June and holds her hand, and then, you know, the guard shoves them apart from each other.
That part killed me.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's so sad. It's so scary. They did such a good job of just sheer terror in this scene.
Yeah.
And then they're walking down the hall onto the field with like slats in the walls. It looks like almost like a cattle van. And she
Exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly a cattle van. I actually have another cattle analogy for this episode.
Oh, really?
Closer to the end. Yeah. I think it's definitely supposed to be there because, well, like there's another one
there's
too.
Something later on. I look forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that one. And then they get onto the field, and it's Fenway Park in Boston where the Red Sox play. And June turns around and sees what is the word? Not scaffolding. What's it called?
The stands. The
gallows.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
June turns around. June turns around and sees the gallows and gets.
I love that shot. It just looks like they're like, you know, a team going out to.
Yeah, because they run through like that when they come out on the field, but there's a much different ending in baseball. So she sees the gallows, finally understands what's going on, and they're still just like shoving the women to the ground, kicking them, screaming, just being awful as they're shoving them up to the gallows. And I wonder if any of them realize at this point how unlikely it would be for Gilead to kill this many handmaids at once.
I don't think
I
so.
don't.
I doubt it too.
Probably not. But does anyone have thoughts on why June didn't, at this point, try to tell the guards that she's pregnant? Does anyone have
a lot
any
of
thoughts
thoughts on this, and my brain just goes wacky every time I try to think about it.
Yeah.
I think she just wouldn't want to do that to the other handmaids. If they're going to be killed for what she did, I think she's willing to go down with her baby as well.
I don't think so.
No?
I personally think that she's newly pregnant, so like it probably isn't in the forefront of her mind. And I think that she was just terrified. And when you're terrified, you don't think clearly. So I think that maybe if, like I think any normal person, like if you're faced with death and you have a way out, I think that you would try to use it. So I just don't think that she thought of it, honestly.
Maybe at that point they just thought, June just thought, well, I'm going to die anyway, and everyone else is going to die. So
yeah,
what's the point?
Yeah, and I agree with Kimberly. I think maybe she thought it wouldn't have changed anything.
Well, and also it seems like they want us to see that the muzzles don't allow them to talk clearly, right? She couldn't really have gotten their attention either. Assuming the muzzle works.
That's true.
But anyway, she didn't. It's a good question though. And it would be your instinct to try to save yourself, just in human nature.
That's true. So the music that's playing during this scene is called Woman's Work by Kate Bush. And I love the song. Like, I feel like it fits the scene perfectly. And then it's also was actually written for a movie called She's Having a Baby. And it describes the scene where this wife is giving birth and she may or may not live. So I thought it was really interesting that they paralleled that, since the show is all about, well, not all about, but fertility and control. And then I also listened to the lyrics, and it says, I know you got a little life in you. And I was like, oh, this also could mean June being pregnant. She has a little life in her.
I didn't think of it that way. That's so smart.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
That song is from a man's perspective, right?
Yeah. He's watching his wife go through this birth. And then also one of the lyrics was, I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. And I also thought of that as, June was crying in this scene, but normally she's the strong one amongst all the handmaids. Like, she can't cry. She can't show weakness.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting.
That's really interesting. And yeah, she's never really vulnerable around them because she's their leader. That's really interesting. In that movie too, she's having a baby. How fascinating. Yeah. So then they push them up to the nooses, and one by one put them around everybody's neck. Alma, I think, pees herself, right?
Yes, she does.
Scared. Yeah, it was a little dark when I saw it this time, but I thought I remembered that. She's so scared. And then they take the inappropriate dramatic time just to maximize their fear before they pull the lever.
Yeah, I liked how some of them, they were holding hands, which, like they just signifying they were all in it together, which I thought was really sweet. In their what they thought were their last moments. They're all gonna hold hands to, be in it together.
I love them.
The acting by everyone in this scene was so good. Like Nina, who played Alma, and obviously Lizzie, but even all just the background handmaids as well. It was all so good.
You're right. The sheer terror on everybody's face.
Yeah, you can really feel the terror.
Yeah, no, they were amazing. I was feeling terror. So then he says, by his hand, and pulls the lever, and they all think they're about to drop. And, it takes a second before I think they realize what's happened. And, this was a fake out. And, oh my God, the fucking drama that this place causes these women.
Yeah.
Insane.
And you think, it's insanity to me that, do we think that Aunt Lydia planned this whole thing? Or do the eyes plan this? Who plans this?
I don't know. She seemed pretty into it. She seemed pretty into it when she came out.
I think it's Aunt Lydia.
Yeah, I think it was Lydia.
It could be her, yeah.
All this stress is just going to cause anyone who's pregnant to possibly have a miscarriage.
That's a continuing problem I have throughout the show. Nobody treats them in a way to actually protect the baby's health. How stupid are we? Do you really think that this is not going to affect baby's health when you're torturing these women emotionally, physically, whatever? They're dumb.
I was just thinking that does anyone have a guess on if Nick knew what was going to happen to June when he told her to go with the eyes and just trust him?
Yeah, so I think that he did, and it actually, if it weren't for the book, they had to end the last episode the way the book ended, which was him saying, go with them, trust me. If it were not for that, I would be livid at Nick, because he could have said in that amount of time, they're going to fake hang you or something,
Yeah.
that was a little bit more telling. But I think he did know. Yeah. And again, I think the book is the reason that he didn't tell her more. But it's super awkward. I'd be like, excuse me, you said trust me, and then
that this happens. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking that maybe he didn't know, but at the same time, he probably thought that she might try to save herself by saying that she's pregnant, so that maybe she wouldn't have to go through all of this. So he wasn't as worried as he maybe should have been.
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
true.
He doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting because June isn't the one who says that she's pregnant. Somehow Aunt Lydia finds out. I'm sure it's the eyes or Nick or Mayday feeding
Or
information.
Serena.
To
I thought it
Dan.
was Serena. My thought was Serena. Yeah.
Me too.
I have that as
Yeah,
a
me
note.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fairly sure she would have quickly done that to get her out.
I
of
mean,
there.
the way she was acting when they left the house with June, I feel like she was immediately trying to figure out, where is she? Where is she going? I need to get her back. She's pregnant.
It's surprising she didn't yell that then, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So that's why
It's
I
surprising
feel
to me that, like, obviously Aunt Lydia's, like, if she's the one who planned all this, like, that she doesn't have to tell the commanders what's going to happen.
Yeah, because they were completely in the dark.
I wonder if she kind of planned it on the fly, because it seemed like it happened very quickly from the time like they refused to stone Janine to the time that they're getting June in the van. So I wonder if it was just, it happened
Super
very
fast.
suddenly. Yeah. She was like, you know what? We know we have those gallows. Let's go fake hang them and scare the shit out of them.
Yeah. She was waiting in her room for that. So it is not a lot of time has passed.
Yeah.
She knew they were coming. And it's such a, like, I bet Lydia was like psyched when she thought of this idea, because she doesn't want to kill them, but she definitely wants to punish them for what she did. So it'd be perfect in her mind. Aunt Lydia comes out with her whole speech of nonsense, but I have a few of the beginning and the end. You will love the Lord with your God with all your hearts. You should obey his word and the word of his servants here on earth, and you shall feel the pain of his judgment, for that is his love. It's like
Gilead writing its own Bible again.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And then they start pulling the nooses off one at a time. And I like June writing her own Bible as well. Our Father who art in heaven. Seriously, what the actual fuck?
Yes.
It's an amazing quote. Oh,
Yeah,
I know. It's one of my favorite lines.
Such a good one. Yeah.
And then it flashes back to Hannah putting her shoes on. She's apparently not feeling well. And then Luke asks June if she's going to Walgreens. And she says she needs him to sign her birth control form. And they have this conversation where, and he's shocked that they ask her to show them his signature on her birth control form, which is obviously humiliating. And she, she's like flirting, like, well, maybe we could not get the birth control. We could have another baby, which is surprising to me, because with the state of things, I think I would not.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, dude, why do you want another baby
right now? When
At
things
this
are like
point,
this?
yeah.
But I mean, to play devil's advocate, like, again, like June and Luke, they didn't realize how bad it was gonna get. At this point, it was just that she needed her husband's signature for birth control. So
quote that June says in another episode, I can't remember, but where she says it slowly trickles in, but then once you actually realize, it's just like,
it's too late.
Yeah,
it's too late.
If you're in a pot of water, what was it?
You'll be boiled alive before you
know it.
A frog in a boiling pot or something.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really good hints at that in this episode, and the signature on the birth control is one, and there's more coming up later with Hannah at the hospital.
Yeah,
too.
that scene's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess she gives her the Tylenol in this scene, right? Or mentions it. I think
she mentioned.
I think she mentioned it. Yeah.
It's a no, by the way, everyone. Okay, so she gives her the Tylenol to bring her fever down so she can send her to school, and that is not looked upon kindly in school even now. But they talk about the birth control. They decide, he decides finally, like, okay, don't get your birth control filled, right? And there's still that, like, they're always that, like, almost like flirty, like honeymoon phase-ish, the way they talk to each other, So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of that in the scene.
I thought it was interesting that it feels like this is the first time that they're bringing up having a second child, which I thought was kind of strange because Hannah looks like maybe 4 or 5 years old. Well, maybe like 5. She's in school. It just seems like a big conversation that you have within relationships. So to me, it was very telling about their relationship that maybe June was wanting a child, second child for a long time, but that she just didn't bring it up to Luke because she was afraid of what he would think.
And she was nervous about like asking him.
She was nervous. Yeah. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they communicate about the big things in their relationship. That's what I picked up from the scene.
I had the same takeaway. Like she seemed like someone who needed his assurances, and like she wasn't even really 100% sure about how she felt about having a second child. Like, or maybe she was, but it's hard to tell based on the scene because you can't really read her,
right?
What she's really thinking. Like maybe she wasn't sure she wanted another kid, but she couldn't just tell him that.
Yeah.
Or maybe she was like, well, maybe I could, but I'm not really sure. I have to ask Luke what he thinks.
Yeah.
So then we go back to current time, and the women are holding their rocks up like they did with Janine. But obviously it looks like they've been doing it for like hours here. I don't know how long one can
I didn't catch
that.
That's what she's making them do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I caught that too on the rewatch.
Yeah.
I know it's a long time because when they're out there, there's still like some daylight, even though it's, raining. But then when they come inside, I saw in the cafeteria window, it was dark. So it was several hours.
Jeez, that'd be so hard.
And again, you hold your arm up for that. Like, I can't hold my arm like that for like 10
I know.
seconds.
With a rock in it too.
Yeah.
That would be so hard.
And then she, like, I didn't even understand why the first girl got randomly tased because I thought she was holding her rock up very nicely. But then June's arm is falling a little, so she gets the tase. And that's when the aunt, Lydia's going on and on about how God knows best, blah, blah, blah. And another cool aerial of their circle that they kind of look like a dartboard, almost like a target.
Yeah, that's a cool shot.
And this is when she does have the talk about the more than one kind of freedom. There's freedom to and freedom from. Before Gilead, it was freedom to do things, but now you are lucky to have freedom from having to, do things that you want to do, like read. She says freedom from is a gift from God. Do not underrate it. And then one of the other aunts comes out and is like whispering to Lydia and clearly tells her June is pregnant, and Lydia is delighted. And Dowd is the best actress. She's amazing. Like I hate Aunt Lydia, but she's amazing.
This whole sequence, she's very, very incredible.
It's so unique the way she plays her. And she says Offred has been keeping a secret, a most wonderful secret. She has been filled with his divine light, which I guess means sperm. Just kidding, baby.
I mean, just the way she says it is just disgusting. Like,
I know. Oh, they're good at that.
See, man.
Yeah.
And then June gets her stone taken away and gets taken inside, and all of a sudden gets like VIP treatment while the other women are continuing being tortured. She gets Lydia wants her out of her wet clothes. She goes to ring the bell, I guess, to announce the pregnancy, even though all the women looked confused, but I guess that's what she's doing.
I didn't get that at first, but I think that's what it was. She's announcing the pregnancy, especially the way she starts holding the rope and she starts like crying. Yeah. So I feel like her getting to ring the bell is proof the system works.
Yes.
My air quotes.
God, that was weird. That was a weird scene, that one.
Yeah. I didn't get it. I didn't get it the first time I watched it, but I think, on a few rewatches, that's what it was supposed to signify is the pregnancy.
Right. So Lydia's crying like tears of joy and laughing like crazy. I wrote crazy bitch, but the girls looked a little confused outside. June just looks depressed and she's digging her nails into the back of her neck. And then she's sitting alone at the table in the gymnasium. Lydia brings her hot soup and June refuses to eat. And then Lydia pretends it's because she has like morning sickness, even though I'm sure she knows good and well she's rebelling. And says that your theatrics were for nothing. And June says Janine isn't nothing, like looking in her eyes, which I love because Aunt Lydia pretends to love Janine. But then that's when she reveals that instead of a quick death, she's on her way to the colonies.
Yeah, the back and forth between June and Lydia in these scenes, the whole season in particular, but in this scene in particular is very good.
Yeah.
They're amazing to watch, you know, Anne and Lizzie go
Play
back
off
and
each
forth
other.
and head to head. Yes, they're very good at it.
It is. And she says, friends don't stone their friends to death. I also like that line.
I
As
love
if you
that
really
line.
need to say that.
It's funny how Aunt Lydia here, she obviously thinks that, you know, June's done what she done because she knew that she was pregnant and she wouldn't get punished.
And she says as much to her. And we don't think that's the case, right?
But obviously she never said that she was pregnant.
Right.
I was going to say, she could have chosen to say it at any time, and I think it would have stopped. Like, especially when they were outside in that circle in the rain.
Plenty of time to think about it.
Any aunt aside at that point, you're right. Like, I understand why at Fenway she didn't, but at that point, she could have, any one of them said, hey, I'm pregnant, so I don't really want to do this. But she chose not to.
Yep. Yeah. I think
what do you think about that? What do you get from that? Her not telling them that she's pregnant.
I think that's her way of rebelling against the system, because that's what she should have done.
Yeah.
She should have said, I'm pregnant, to stop it, to protect the baby, because that's, you know, babies are precious gifts from God, according to Gilead. So by her not.
Like, you can see on her face, she's disappointed when Lydia finds out she's pregnant, you know? She didn't want her to know that.
It was a sense of control that June had.
Right.
Yeah. Like, my take on this, almost the entire episode, is that the theme basically is how much guilt June feels over many things. There's I think she feels guilt over not telling Lydia and the other aunts about her pregnancy, a little bit of guilt because of that. And then there's the guilt that Lydia pushes on her about Janine, or what happened to Janine and the other girls because of what June did. And then I think there's also guilt, especially in the flashbacks, over her putting Hannah to school when she was sick.
Right.
And well, we'll talk about that when we get to more of the flashbacks. But I think there's a lot of guilt on June's part in this episode. And I think this is where it starts, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's kind of holds the whole episode together, the theme throughout it. And then June's still refusing to eat, and Lydia knows the best way to get anyone to do anything is to torture someone else. First, she shows her of Wyatt, who drank drain cleaner to try to, I don't know, kill the baby or die, whatever. She's pregnant, and now she's chained up in a room in the Red Center for until she has her baby.
Yeah. Do we ever see that Handmaid's commander?
Wyatt?
Yeah.
I don't
think so. Because I had to listen again to hear what his name was.
I did like in that room with that other handmaid how they tried to make that gym or whatever room it was feel kind of homey, like she had a rocking chair and a carpet and a lamp, but she's chained to
she's
the
on
pipe.
A chain.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very good microcosm of Gilead as a whole. You know, they try to make it all flowery and wholesome and homey, but these women are just prisoners.
Yeah.
So
a great point. And I love the word microcosm.
Thank you.
I really do.
Yeah.
I used it a lot in English papers in college. So then June agrees to eat after that, and then they bring the other women in, and they're soaking wet while June sits there dry with food and milk, and the other women don't know what's about to happen, and she pulls one out at a time because that's how they do everything, maximize the terror, and takes them into the kitchen where they turn the stove on and force them to put their hands in the fire. I know.
That's like that's one of the most difficult scenes. There are a lot of difficult scenes to watch, but that for me is one of the most difficult ones. The fire and the screaming and the pleading. Anytime that happens, it's I
know. It's just like their creative ways of torture they come up with. It's just mind-boggling. And that she can do it. Oh, what kind of person could do that?
She's trying to make, do you think like this was set up beforehand, or is she just trying to make June feel bad?
I think she thought of it when she realized June was pregnant. Maybe not. Maybe they were going to do it to everybody, but it definitely maximizes June's guilt and torture by making her sit there while all her friends get that done. And it tries, she's always trying to break up the girls so they're not on the same team,
I was going to say, I think it was also her trying to turn the girls against June, who at this point is their leader.
Right.
So And I think that's evident in the shot where June is sitting facing them, sitting down eating as they're standing there in rows waiting to go get tortured.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
They're good
She
at
wants
what they
them to
do.
be friends when it's convenient for her. Like when Janine
Is on the bridge.
When Janine was on the bridge, she's her friend.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Actually had a flashback to when I read V for Vendetta, that ideas are bulletproof. So they're like sort of trying to stop June from becoming a symbol of some kind of rebellion
Yeah.
in these scenes.
Yeah.
But of course, it doesn't work like that.
Good way to see it. So she eats her soup and flashes back to her job as a book editor. She's watching out the windows as tons of people are walking. It seems like they're going somewhere, but I couldn't tell. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just city life. They're just walking. Her coworker brings her purse and says her phone's been buzzing. And so the school's been calling her and she calls them. This is the first time someone ignores her last name and it makes me mad. She says, like, this is June Osborne. And the nurse says, okay, Mrs. Bangle. Your daughter has a fever of 101. And June stupidly reveals that she was warm when she woke up and I gave her Tylenol.
Yeah. What? Oh no, that's a surprise to me. That must have happened.
I had
That's
no
the way you
idea.
handle that situation.
Oh my god!
Right? Who doesn't know that?
Is that like because I remember she said it's like a state policy. Is that like normal?
I felt like her saying the state has policies was another clue that things were already changing, because then the next thing was, well, we took her to the hospital.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which I feel like that is an insane thing. That is not something that normally happens. Like the kid goes to the nurse and the parent comes and picks them up. They don't send them to the hospital for a slight fever.
Yeah.
I know that's crazy unless they couldn't reach her for like the entire school day, really. Right? For a fever. Again, she's not having a seizure or anything.
Do they not have a sick bay?
Yeah, everybody has a nurse's room office where there's like places they can lay down while they get in touch with parents. So that's an extreme overreaction.
Can anybody tell if they tried calling Luke or did they just try to call June?
They said they did at the hospital. They said they also tried him.
Okay.
Oh, really? They did? Okay.
I mean, it was much more blamed on her, but
well, June said that he was at a work site. So I'm trying to give like Luke the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he was like further out from the city then.
She did say a job site in Quincy, which I'm not familiar with the geography of Massachusetts, but I've been there a little time. I think that's like a suburb of Boston. So
yeah, it's not that far really. I've been there. It's not that far. And technically, even if he was on a site, like I work in construction, so he should have been able to answer his phone at least.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if we're saying about that about Luke, we have to say that about June as well.
That's
true. Yeah. She didn't have her phone. Yeah.
She definitely should have picked up, especially if she knew her kid had a fever earlier that day.
Yeah.
You would keep your phone on you and be watching it. But here we are. So the nurse says, well, she's not here. She's at the hospital, as if that's a sensible, logical thing to do. So she then like races out of there. She gets to the hospital. Hannah's like thrilled to see her. Everybody keeps, or I guess it's just the same woman, but they keep calling her Mrs. Bankroll, and it really makes me mad. And is she a child worker? Like, is she a?
I thought she was a nurse at
That's
first.
what I thought, and then I was
I
like,
couldn't work that out
social
exactly.
worker?
Well, I assume she was a social worker.
Yeah.
Her questions, I mean,
that's when I started thinking she was a social worker.
Yeah, her questions are very.
She sounded more like a social worker.
Yeah.
Because she asked if Hannah was her biological child, and at first I was like, is it because Hannah's biracial and June is white?
Yeah, she was racist.
The subtle racism.
Yeah. And then I also was thinking, like, is this like the beginning of Sons of Jacob taking over and like confirming that like June got pregnant by her own means? I mean, obviously they would have medical records, but it still was just a weird question to me. And then my mind went to, well, maybe she is like a social worker and like they're trying to take Hannah away from June because June's being neglectful.
They're certainly setting the foundation for that, right?
I thought so. This is when I talked about earlier about the subtle ways, Gilead was already working in. This was another scene I thought that because of the questions she asked. And one I quoted in here, one of the things she asked was, we need to make sure she has a safe home environment with fit parents, which is the whole thing at Gilead, right? Like, we're going to take you from your unfit parents and give you to these commanders and their wives who we've determined are fit parents. and you can just go make us more babies to give to more fit parents. So just the little like nuances in the language they use.
Mm-hmm. She's just making June feel like a terrible mom and a terrible human being, and I don't, she sucks.
Yeah, people like her are the reason, you know, Gilead was allowed to happen in the first place.
You're right.
This nurse would
Very
have
much
definitely
so.
been an aunt.
She's gonna make an awesome aunt. she already is an aunt, basically.
We're very proud of her.
The first aunt of Gilead.
She's the aunt of all aunts.
The mother aunt.
And whatever.
Yeah.
She's gonna excel in that role. I'm proud of her.
Mhm.
So then the doctor says, "That's your baby, Mrs. Waterford," as they do the ultrasound. God has created a new soul. They're happy. And Serena and Fred are like together and happy for once. June's pissed off. And then Serena comes and kisses her head. I hate when she does shit like that.
You know what I like though in that moment? I like how when the Waterfords are on the other side of the curtain, you can almost see June getting a little emotional listening to them talk about the progress of the pregnancy. But then the second Serena comes back around that curtain, she puts that fuck you face back on.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but it was incredible face acting from Lizzie. Just, I really like that.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I caught that too. And I think at this point, the pregnancy is starting to become real to her. But also at the same time, the whole system is sort of trying to drive a wedge between her and the baby, like with the curtain in place and her not being able to see
what's so
on the screen the doctor's showing them. Yeah. So like then you have a handmaid who tries to kill herself and her baby, but they've caused it because they're not allowing them to connect to their babies.
Right.
Yeah.
And they never learn. They never ever learn. Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
The OBGYN says, "Blessed be the fruit." June says under his eye, just automatically. And then he says, "Godspeed, June," and looks in, he's looking in her eyes. And that throws her for a loop.
Yes.
Oh, he's a nurse?
Yeah, he was like the tech or something.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. The doctor.
I think he drops the key in when the OBGYN is like all up in her business.
He does. So I played it back because I
nice.
was curious to see. To see if he did go over to her stuff. And it's when the doctor is like prepping the wand, he's putting the gel on it. You can see his shoes in the corner of the shot near where her boots were. So he definitely
awesome.
Yeah.
Because he'd have to do it right during that time. I didn't think about that for some reason.
When nobody's watching, yeah.
That's really cool. So she's like confused, but she goes over, get dressed. She gets to her second shoe and finds a key. And she still moves kind of slowly from this point at first.
I know. I'm like, come on, June.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's like she wasn't really sure whether it was real.
She's just like shocked.
This is really happening.
Right. Out of nowhere. Like she's had no warning that this is going to happen. Yeah. But she puts the key in the lock. She goes to the door. She follows these little like red Post-it notes or something.
Which was brilliant because like think of how many times you see random like tape or like spray paint stuck to walls or doors.
Right. And you just disregard it.
You don't think anything of it. Yeah.
Right. And that leads her eventually to the butcher's van. And pretty much like as soon as she gets in, he shuts the doors and immediately starts the motor. And
there's the other cattle analogy.
Oh my God, that one's so obvious too.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, that's funny.
Did anyone think that the cattle just like swinging there looked like what could have happened to the handmaids?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
that's true.
Yes,
that is true. Good catch.
And I can sort of see that they marched at the beginning of the episode. They marched them like cattle to slaughter the Fenway Park, and then nearing the end of the episode, then she's sort of like. Well, she wasn't butchered, but she could have been butchered. And now she's sort of been given this reprieve.
Right.
And she is alone in that truck with these carcasses that could have been her.
Yeah.
Figuratively.
Yeah. It flashes to Fred taking charge of all the units like on the phone to look for his pregnant handmaid, and Serena walking upstairs to June's room. And she sits on her windowsill. I would like to think she bothered to think about how shitty her life was and why she would have left. But probably not.
I drew a parallel to Serena sitting on like the window pane to the first episode of season 1 where June is sitting on like that same spot.
Yeah.
And I also think it's funny. So the first episode of season 1 is called Offred, and then this episode is called June. So I was like, oh, that's
so
a
cool
contrast.
That is really cool. Good catch.
Yeah.
Then it flashes back to June in the van and back to her thinking about getting home from school that day with Hannah. And Luke's watching the Capitol takeover on the TV. There's been an explosion at the White House. Everything's going down. And Hannah wants June to stay with her, and she does. And Hannah also says, like, I don't feel good. I hate this day. And June says, I'll stay. And she said, you'll stay? I'll stay. Like, I don't know what the meaning of that was, but I feel like there was meaning there in that conversation that went above my head.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like there was a choice that she made between Luke and Hannah there. Like, Hannah asked her to stay, and at the same time, Luke was like, oh, come here and watch the TV with me.
Right.
Yeah.
He was really upset, which is, of course, normal. But at the same time, she had her child there, and she sort of chose between her husband and her kid in the scene.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it goes back to the butcher van, and there's a license plate here that I was unable to crack the code. I know.
Our license plates expert. Come on.
760954 is the butcher van. The only thing that I can come up with is 76 here in Philly is a symbol of freedom because we were freed in 1776.
So it was about the flashback with Hannah and June laying in her bed, and the whole thing, I think it must have been because June was leaving, or she thought she was leaving. She thinks at this point she's leaving Gilead. She's leaving Hannah too. So there's the guilt again, especially. And I think it's really strong in this scene with her.
Yeah.
She's definitely thinking, I should not be doing this. I'm leaving my daughter.
That's what she's thinking of her. Right. So they get to their destination. The butcher brings her inside, says, stay inside. Someone will come for you.
They're going to have a barbecue picnic.
I love that butcher. He's so cute.
I love him too.
Oh, the way she hugs him, it's so sweet.
I know.
Oh,
He was so cute.
Yeah.
That's the same butcher, right?
Yeah.
Gave June the letters.
Yeah. And pretty quickly, Nick appears down the hall, and you just see it from behind him, and she runs to him and hugs him and nuzzles him, and she's so happy to see him. I love that.
Yeah. Oh,
and then when they pull apart, you can see his massive sigh of relief.
She gave him a good
so
smell
nervous.
too.
Yeah. But you can just tell when she hugs him, she's so comfortable with him. She knows she's safe. She's in good hands. And that she was correct to trust him. He didn't lie to me. He said at that point, okay, yeah, he said, trust me for a reason.
He left out some details.
He left out a few, but
yeah. Just a few.
I really love that scene. I can't even put it into words, but the happiness, the sheer like love and happiness.
Yeah.
And this is like the happiest scene in this entire episode.
Yeah.
By far.
Also, is this their first forehead touch? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
It's sweet. They're very close to each other. They're very comfortable and intimate. So she says, where are we? And he says, and then they're straight to business. Back Bay, they're looking for you. He tells her to take off her clothes and that they can't get out of the city yet, but someone will come and get you and take you to a place you can stay until it's safe to move. She takes her clothes off and then puts them in the furnace.
Yeah.
And throws in a match, watches them burn. And then he gives her scissors and she cuts her hair. By the way, the smell of burning hair is really gross. My hair caught fire once at a candle vigil at church.
Oh my God.
I was a kid.
Oh my God. Can I tell a quick story? I was at, do you guys have Maggiano's? It's an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
So I was at Maggiano's once with my friends and we were sitting there eating and all of a sudden it started to smell disgusting. We were like, what is on fire? Somebody had gone to propose to his girlfriend or something, and they got close to a candle on the table and their hair caught on fire.
Oh my God.
It's a really unique smell.
Yeah. And
did you see it on fire?
No, we just were like, what is that smell? And then all of a sudden here comes half of the fire department. we asked our waiter, we were like, what happened? And like we were like gathering our purses, like getting ready to like run out of the restaurant, like like the thing is the building's on fire. And they go, no, so this guy was proposing and they went to take pictures afterwards and somebody's hair caught on fire.
So at least she said yes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Very
memorable proposal.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, hair catching on fire smells disgusting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So and then it gets super gory as she cuts her ear tag out.
Ugh.
By the way, her
That
DNA
was
is going to be
delicious.
all over this warehouse, like just DNA everywhere.
I still want to know where Nick went. That garage is
I
only
know.
so
If you saw that happening.
it is only soap. And like, what did he think when he came back and saw her covered in blood?
I wrote that note too. Like
I did
he's
too.
probably like kind of like shocked, but also like he knows like how like impulsive and like badass she is. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she did that, huh?
But yeah, she was covered in blood.
It's painful to watch. There's so much blood in the show. Like, I want to know how much blood Burton has gone through. It's probably like
I'm
thousands
thinking,
of
like,
gallons.
Obviously, the special effects makeup team had to make the ear.
Yeah.
Like, they would have had to have hopefully have got that like in one cut. Could you imagine having to do that again?
Over and over.
Like with all the blood on Lizzie as well. They have to
that's
like
true.
clean her all up.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on her hands and knees in pain, like afterwards. And it just struck me that she's often in this position, but this time it's of her own doing.
Mm-hmm.
She sees the and then she sees the tag. She's gotten it off and stands up tall and throws it in the furnace. And that's, I wrote that too. I would love to see Nick's reaction to the blood all over her. Instead, they pretend he's just not there.
I know.
And she says, my name is June Osborne. I'm from Brookline, Massachusetts. I'm 34 years old. I stand 5'3" and bare feet. I weigh 120 pounds. I have viable ovaries. I'm 5 weeks pregnant. I'm free. And that's where the episode ends.
I think we should talk about the fact that Nick likely orchestrated all of her getaway.
Yes, because if we recall, the day that he found out she was pregnant, she went back to his house later that afternoon to talk about the Hannah situation. And his lights are on, his door is locked, and he's not home. And that makes no sense. So clearly he was already off arranging for Mayday to help her escape, in my opinion.
I agree.
He's doing bad boy shit.
Bad boy shit.
That's why we love him.
I love it.
He's a man of action.
Yes, he wasted no time. And you could tell. And I think that's also why he remained when Serena saw him kneeling beside her. You know, he doesn't rush out of there. He's just like, fuck you. I'm going to get them out of here. I've just decided and I don't care anymore what you see. I think that was like immediately he decided he's doing this. And then he immediately went and handled it. And I don't know how he handled it. I don't know how it all works, but it also makes me think he must have already been helping them in ways, because there's no way they would just be like, okay, we'll get your girlfriend out. You know, I mean, there's so many handmaids there.
And the pregnant handmaid.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, how much risk is that? So I feel like that's just more evidence that he's already been doing a lot of good with them. And that's why he was able to call a humongous favor. Like, there is no larger ask in Gilead, right?
He went to Mayday and he's like, guys, listen, this sounds a bit strange.
I don't know
you.
You.
A bit hard, but come on. I'm trying to get a handmaid out.
I have to cash in every favor.
I know. I was thinking, like, he probably did that on purpose. Like, he's probably like building up all these favors, like, for one day.
What if he ever needs it? And then he did. And he immediately cashed in.
I guess as well, no one else. Obviously, he's the only one that knows their name.
Yeah.
So the nurse says June. So June's automatically going to know it's from Nick, right?
That's actually like proof.
I thought that too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you don't need any more proof because he's there waiting for her.
Yeah.
But in case you did, nobody else knows her name.
I think that's how she knew to trust that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love how quickly he moves to get her out of there.
Yeah.
I also love that I don't think Fred and Serena are wondering where Nick is right now.
Well, they probably think he's out searching for her.
Yeah,
right?
That's
what
true.
I think.
That's a good point.
Yeah. He's probably like, I'll go find her, guys. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to go find her. I know where she is, but I'm not bringing her to you.
He's a very good boyfriend. Okay, I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis into season 2, episode 1. If you're a longtime fan of the show, come back on Wednesday to listen to our deep dive into this episode. And if you are a new watcher, we'll see you next Monday to talk about season 2, episode 2.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please, it's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.